My name is Sister Marijke Gerretsen. I entered the congregation at a time when there were a lot of changes taking place. The Vatican Council had begun in 1962, and different changes were coming about. And so when I made profession in 1965 and went to Antigonish to study, we were one of the groups that did not receive religious names anymore. And within a year of being at St. Francis Xavier University, we changed the habit. And then within 1 year after that, all the sisters in the community changed back to their family names. After I completed my studies in 1969, I was missioned to Ottawa, where I taught home economics and biology. During that time, something was stirring in my heart. A little bit like before I entered, you feel a call. It's a mystery, you don't know why, but something in my heart stirred about Japan. And I was actually praying that I would be asked to go to Japan. There was a book by Jesuit Father Orsi that was open to the Spirit. The Spirit speaks through everyone. And I felt, after I made final vows in 1971, that I could no longer wait, that perhaps I was the one who had to be courageous enough and express my desire to go to Japan. So I left for Japan in 1973, and I began 2 years of language study in Tokyo, commuting every day an hour and a half both ways to the language school in the middle of Tokyo, which at that time was still only for missionaries. So in 1975, I was missioned to Fukushima to teach at Sakura no Seibo. And it is only really when you're entering the school that you learn the vocabulary connected with the school. In Chofu, when I lived with our sisters, you learn the everyday language, you pick it up. And so when I began in the school, a whole new adventure was in front of me. I taught in the junior high school and in the senior high school for most of my 42 years in Japan. I didn't go to Japan to teach English. I felt called to Japan. The teaching of English was the means of connecting with the students, with the teachers, with the parents, with my sisters in community. And it was a being with, a learning from them. I learned so much more than I ever felt I contributed. In the 80s, we developed programs to bring students abroad. I think I organized 3 trips to Canada with faculty over the years. I was always very happy to expose both the staff and our students to other cultures when they came to Canada, because it broadened their mind. And they went back, and that influenced their lives. And also for the teachers who walked in the footsteps of Marguerite Bourgeois, that would in some way influence their teaching when they went back to our schools. When I was in Japan teaching, we had no cars, so I rode my bicycle to and from school for 35, 40 years, 20 minutes each way. It was a wonderful time to be in touch with myself, in touch with nature. Little by little, you met the same people as you were going, and I loved it. My life with my sisters in Japan in some ways was like living in Canada with a CND, in a CND community. I felt very much at home there. In 1994, we established a smaller community in Fukushima, and that was composed of 6 sisters, 5 Japanese and myself, in an ordinary house where we did our cooking, cleaning. We were all full-time in the school. It was something new in Japan. They weren't used to that. In the large community in Fukushima, I lived with 25 sisters, sometimes 30. So to move into a community of 6, it was a challenge. Our large convent in Fukushima during the war was used as a prisoner of war camp. And in the late 1980s, a number of these prisoners, men from England, Australia, and Singapore, came back. They wanted to visit the convent, and they would go around and tell us about the different things that they had discovered during their 3 years there. I remember one gentleman, Mr. Oland from England, wanting to come back during the cherry blossom season because he wanted to touch the cherry blossoms, which he had only seen from the window, from inside. And lo and behold, when I took him to a cherry blossom festival during his visit, he burst out into tears because it was something that he had wanted to do ever since after the war, when they were released. Teaching in Japan was a challenge because the hours are long, 5.5 days, with oftentimes activities on Sundays too. The teachers also supervised the cleaning, supervised the pool in the summer. Time-wise, you didn't have too much of an opportunity to become involved in other activities or commitments other than the school. When I reached the age of 65 and retirement age from full-time teaching, I really wanted to have another experience. Then I spent 2 years in France, in the birthplace of Margaret Bourgeois, walking the streets of France, praying in the churches where she prayed. But I had promised Japan that I would go back after 2 years. So I did. But I went back to teaching part-time in the elementary school, which was quite a change. Usually you begin in elementary school, and after a number of years of teaching, you might go up to the high school. But I'm not so sure that too many sisters did it the other way around. I returned to Japan in 2011, just after the Fukushima earthquake, nuclear disaster, and tsunami, March 11, 2011. Our convent, which had been built in 1935, had to be destroyed. The sisters had already moved into a new convent, but the old convent was used for a study center and that, but that could no longer continue. And the sisters felt that I was the right person to do the job or get involved with the demolition, in a sense, take out from the convent what was and should be kept, the things that were important, the things that related to the foundation in Japan, those artifacts that connected with the prisoners of war being there. A heritage room was set up in the junior college of Sakura no Seibo. It was just completed in 2012 for the 80th anniversary. The CND community has always been the only community to be in Fukushima. In Tokyo, of course, there are many, many other religious communities, and also the city the big city next to Fukushima in Sendai, but in Fukushima it's always been only our community. Before leaving in 2015, I had the desire to climb Mount Fuji. I thought, having been here for 42 years and not having climbed Mount Fuji, I wanted to do that. I can truthfully say that my 42 years in Japan have enriched my life far beyond perhaps what I shared. But I do think that our presence, the presence of the sisters among the Japanese is appreciated and loved. I can only say thank you, and maybe at the end I want to say, Maria Kanku no minasama, 90周年お祝いおめでとうございます。心から感謝いたします。心込めて皆さんと一緒に神に感謝します。本当に長い間ありがとうございました。